We have all been there, right? A big project goes sideways, a system has an outage, and suddenly you're in the talk. So in this explainer, we're going to break down how to actually master these conversations, how to turn those painful blame sessions into some really powerful learning opportunities.
I want you to just take a second and think about the last time you were in one of those post-failure meetings. What was the vibe in that room? Was it tense? Could you feel people kind of looking for a scapegoat, pointing fingers? Yeah, more often than not, these things can feel like a courtroom drama, which is exactly what we want to get away from.
Sound familiar? I thought so. This kind of statement is super common, but here's the thing. It's a dead end. It immediately frames the problem as one person's mistake, and that just slams the door on any chance for a deeper, way more useful investigation into what was really going on.
To fix this, we need a really foundational shift in how we think. We have to move from this need to find someone to blame and move toward creating an environment where everybody can learn. And this isn't just some nice-to-have feel-good thing. It's literally the only way to build more resilient systems and, frankly, more resilient teams.
Okay, so this brings us to a really key concept, being blame-aware. And this is a subtle but super important distinction. See, the goal isn't to be perfectly blameless. Let's be real, our brains are kind of wired to find fault. The goal is to be aware of that instinct, to catch ourselves in the act, so we can consciously choose a much more productive path.
You know, the actual words we choose can change everything. When you ask questions like, how did this happen? Or what was the sequence of events? Well, that encourages a deep dive investigation. It's an invitation for everyone to help build a complete picture. But when we ask, why did you do that? It immediately puts someone on the defensive. It just rushes right past discovery and shuts down any chance for real learning. So to put this into practice, try splitting the conversation into two separate parts. The first meeting is only for building a timeline. No solutions, no action items, nothing. Just what happened. Then, and this is key, everyone sleeps on it. The next day, you can have a way more thoughtful discussion about what to do next because everyone's had time to process. Okay, so now that we've got the right mindset and a good structure, let's dive into the 5 most common traps that can completely derail these conversations and just kill any chance of learning. Seriously, just spotting these is half the battle.
First up, the classic, human error. This phrase is so tempting because, it feels like an answer. But it's not an answer at all. It's the place where all inquiry just stops cold.
When we hear something like this, we're basically saying, case closed, right? We found our culprit, so now we don't have to look any deeper at the system or the tools or the processes that were surrounding that person in the first place.
To do better, we have to start with a brand new assumption. The action made perfect sense to the person at that moment. And this unlocks so many better questions. What information was missing? How did our tools fail to give them the right context? This completely shifts the focus from the person to the system.
All right, our next trap is something called counterfactual reasoning. This is when we start focusing on these imaginary timelines of what could have happened instead of digging into the rich, messy reality of what did happen.
The could've, should've, would've statements. These are so tempting because they create this simple, alternate reality where everything just worked out fine. But they completely distract us from understanding the reality that actually happened. The fix here is pretty simple. Just be relentless about sticking to the facts. Gently steer the conversation back to the actual timeline again and again, and recognize that should have is usually just another way of saying you were wrong, which helps absolutely no one learn anything. So trap number 3 is judging past decisions with the amazing benefit of hindsight. I mean, it's so easy to see the right path now that we know how the story ends. But at the moment the decision was actually made, the future was totally unclear. Did you catch that adverb? Carelessly. Words like that, or hastily, or inadequately, they're just loaded with judgment. They imply the person knew it would end badly and just did it anyway. But in the moment, they didn't have the crystal ball that we have now. To avoid this, you literally have to put yourself in their shoes at that exact moment in time. What did the world look like to them with only the information they had? The goal here is to find the missing systemic support, not a missing personal foresight. All right, trap number 4 is one of my personal favorites. It's called the Scooby-Doo fallacy. The idea that our system would have worked perfectly if it weren't for those meddling kids, or in this case, that one engineer. This paints a picture of this perfect, flawless machine being ruined by a flawed, chaotic human.
but that's just not how complex systems work. In reality, our systems are socio-technical. They're a partnership between humans and technology.
A much better approach is to see humans not just as a source of error, but as the main source of resilience and adaptability. They're the ones keeping the system running day in and day out. So the real question becomes, how do we build better tools to support them?
And our final trap is really a huge missed opportunity. We get so focused on what broke that we completely forget to investigate what didn't break. We just fail to learn from what went right.
Asking this one simple question, it can be revolutionary. It just opens up an entirely new line of investigation. What saved us? What hidden strengths or clever workarounds kept a really bad situation from turning into a catastrophic one? By also studying success, we can uncover all this silent, everyday work that keeps things afloat. And bolstering these hidden strengths can often be way more effective at preventing future incidents than just plugging the latest hole in the wall. So, avoiding all these traps isn't just about having better meetings. It's about fundamentally building a more resilient culture, one that can absorb surprises, adapt to them, and actually grow stronger because of them.
This takes us to a much deeper understanding of what resilience really means. It's way more than just rebound, getting back to normal after something goes wrong. It's also robustness, the ability to handle more and more complexity. It's graceful extensibility, which is how a system brings in extra capacity during a surprise. And maybe most importantly, it's sustained adaptability, that ongoing ability to evolve and face the unknown challenges that are always coming.
So that leaves us with one final question to think about. Take a really hard, honest look at your own team or your company. When something goes wrong, is it treated as a valuable lesson to be shared and learned from? Or is it a liability, something to be hidden and pinned on the nearest person? The answer to that question really says everything about your capacity to improve.